All right, now it's recording. I should start again. Hello, this is Dan Cabrera, and I'm welcoming everyone to the Sharing Your Computer Screen during an online lecture using Blackboard Collaborate. This is an hour-and-a-half session. We may not go that long. I know a lot of sessions are 12 to 1, but I like to get an early start. Let me see. Okay, this is just a reminder to begin recording, which I began already. And once again, this is Dan Cabrera. If you have any questions after the session is over, that's my email address. That's dcabrera@niu.edu. And my number is 753-0613. I'm happy to respond to additional questions, which may occur to you after we finish the session. By the way, since we are recording, you can always come back and listen to the archive session, probably within a day. Okay, great. This morning, we're going to go briefly through the Blackboard Collaborate interface overview. It's important to do this because although there's the assumption that everyone has had some Blackboard Collaborate experience, maybe even taken one of our workshops, it may have been some time that you've used it, and so you may have forgotten some of the things. So we'll go over the features very quickly. We're also going to look to see what the interface looks like between a presenter and a participant. And there is some what might appear to be minor differences, but they are significant differences. And then we'll focus on the purpose of this workshop, which is to discuss the use of the desktop application share and web tour. This is to promote the activities, collaborative activities that you have in your online course. And then we'll have some discussion on how you might choose to use these very interesting tools in your own online sessions. So as I mentioned, we're going to go looking at the Blackboard Collaborate interface. Okay. So let's just start here with the most obvious one right here. This is the participant panel. And well, actually, no. This is the audio-video panel. If you want to speak in the audio-video panel, and you've already gone through the audio setup wizard, then what you want to do is you want to click on this talk button. As you can see, this talk button already has a little microphone that indicates that whoever is viewing this can speak. Now, they obviously have to have a microphone and have gone through that setup wizard process. If you also want to be viewed and you have a webcam, you can click on this button right here, and when you speak, your webcam will turn on, and it will show you. Now, I'm not a big fan of the webcam. It does take a little bit of bandwidth, and when you have your participants, your students, some students will be using wireless technology, and so when they have an excess of bandwidth, there could be some issues that might come up. So you want to reserve that bandwidth for some of the more important activities in your course. However, there are some folks I know who at least begin a workshop or a session with their webcam showing them, just to get the students familiar with them, especially if they don't meet very often. It gives a sense of familiarity and a personal touch to all your students. All right. Then down here are a series of icons for communication. This first icon right here is simply the icon for emoticons. It's emoticons, which are iconic figures for emotion. So we have a happy face icon, a thumbs up or approval icon, and a number of others, even a applaud one. Hopefully you'll use that for mine often. The second item right here is simply it states that you're away from your desktop. And so I know that even though you're logged in, you may actually have stepped away to answer a phone call or get a drink of water or some other activity. The really important aspect of this is that you have to click on it when you're back so that I know you have returned. So if it's not clicked on, then for all I know, you're still speaking on that phone call. This third item, you can barely see, it's somewhat obscured, is a little hand icon. And that simply means that you're raising your hand to ask a question, or you want to, perhaps maybe identify yourself as I've got something urgent that I need to display, and that could either be, if you're raising your hand, you could be asking a question in the chat area, or you could, which is down here, the chat area, or you might actually have a headset mic and you want to ask me a question so I can listen to you, and everyone can hear you audibly. audibly, I guess, audibly. All right, and this next one right here is it's for polling responses, and so when you click on that, and we can do that afterwards, maybe just in a few minutes, it'll be a drop-down menu, and depending on the nature of the poll, if it's a yes/no question, you're going to get either a check mark or an X, a check mark for yes, and an X for no. Or I can change that to multiple choice A, B, C, or D, or even E. Okay, great. Let's see. Any questions? Okay, if you have any questions, oh, Alicia, nope. Thank you so much, Alicia. All right, so Alicia's obviously found that chat area. This right here is where we can communicate for those individuals who don't have a microphone. It's a very easy thing to get caught up as an instructor in the content area. That's this area right here. This is the whiteboard area. And not pay attention to people who've either raised their hand or who have added something in the chat, who are texting or chatting. Texting is a very common activity nowadays. But just as we're instructors, and in fact if we're in a face-to-face setting, we're focused on our material, which is on a screen, and looking at that rather than the students, we may miss some important opportunities to interact with the students if they ask questions. All right. So no questions, so we will proceed then. As I identified, this is the whiteboard area, and this is where you push your content, most notably PowerPoint presentations. Carolyn's asked, do you have to raise your hand before you can talk on the mic? Actually, if you do, then I will note that, but in order to actually speak, you want to click on the talk button, and you're going to get a little icon. So if you have a question, Carolyn, you can ask it right now. Okay, let's see. I think Carolyn is chatting something right now. Oh, the second question: how do you keep all the others from talking at once? Actually, that really isn't going to be an issue. Whoever has the first talk button is clicked on it, and they speak. I don't believe more than one person can speak at the same time. However, and then this is an important distinction. Depending on how one sets up the session, you can have up to 6 people who are able to talk. Now, let me give you an analogy. Say you have a computer lab that has 6 workstations, and so 6 people can actually sit at the workstations, but only one person can actually use the workstation at a time. However, if you have a 7th person who wants to use the workstation, they have to wait until someone gets up from one of the workstations and makes a seat available. And that's what we're talking about here. When you want to speak, you click on the talk button, but when you're done and there's not going to be any more give and take, you can take it off. Certainly you can have more than one person who has the talk button clicked on, but the person who has the talk button clicked on and is speaking should have the exclusive right to talk at that particular moment. Otherwise, you have more than one person speaking, and as we all know, when more than one person speaks at the same time, it's just noise and it's hard to decipher. Although my parents can speak at the same time and hear each other. That's kind of an odd thing, though. All right. So if you have a question, you can raise your hand, or you can just click on the talk button and you can talk. Now, hopefully, if you're hearing me, that should not be an issue. You should be able to also talk as well. All right. All right. Let's move on. All right, so I mentioned that this area right here is the whiteboard area. This is where you're pushing all your content. It's important because that's where you want to be able to provide the content for your students to view and for you to discuss and for them to interact with. Okay. This right here, session information, it just says that it's being recorded, this area right here, and that's the recording indicator. I also wanted to point out there are a number of other things that are not available to the students, and they will not have unless you give them that ability, and that's this right here. This is the whiteboard tool palette. You have a number of different items that are available for students. Now, when you get into the session, you as the instructor have to provide permissions, and in fact, what I did when I got in here was to make sure that everyone had the ability to speak, to chat, and also to have the webcam available. And in this particular example, you don't see that option. I believe in the next slide you might be able to see that that option is there, and I'll show you what I mean by making it available. There are some buttons here which are grayed out, and they're grayed out for the participant. However, for the instructor, they will not be grayed out. They'll be active. So let's just go to that next slide. All right, this is the moderator interface. Before we had a participant interface. And the moderator interface has very similar items. However, there are some significant differences, and those differences including an active link for whiteboard, an active link for the first object, which we'll be talking about today, which is application sharing or app sharing, and a live link for web tour, and we'll go through those two as well. In addition, we have a load content button, which of course the Blackboard Collaborate participant interface did not have. And we also have a button for recording. So these are things that are not available to the students. We also have a view pages. This area right here, if you click on this right here, you'll have a drop-down menu for all of the slides that you have in your presentation, okay, which you have loaded up. You can also advance the slides by clicking on this button right here to go to the next slide. This will go to the previous slide. However, if you click in this particular area, this is the Explore mode, and it'll open up a little dialog box, and it'll have all of your slides in there so you can view them. It's an easy way to be able to view and to be able to jump from one slide to another. Say you don't want to go lockstep to the next slide, you want to skip that slide, you can do that by clicking on that option, the Explore mode. Let's see. I always recommend for faculty when they're using Blackboard Collaborate to have two monitors. So you can use this Page Explorer mode off to the side in the second monitor, so it doesn't obscure any of your own screen that you're using in Blackboard Collaborate. Okay, great. These are some of the tools that I mentioned before. Of course, because this is just a screen capture, you won't be able to see them actually live. But for this, for all intents and purposes, for this session, you won't really need to use these tools. All right. Any questions? Okay, it doesn't seem like there's any questions, and we'll go on to the next slide. All right, so this is important. As I had mentioned before, let me go back to the previous slide. As I mentioned before, these buttons, down here, are really important for faculty to be able to hear their students, to communicate with the students without actually audibly hearing them. All right, so this is just a communication tool. So when we have this is just a this is a slide that we recommend for faculty to have available for the students, because if in fact they're speaking and the students can't hear them, obviously they won't be able to respond whether it's a yes or no to their question. So we like to have a slide that asks do you hear the presenter, and actually give them an opportunity to select this button right here, and it'll be a drop-down menu, and they can select yes or no. So if I have someone who has a no response, then I know that I need to work with that student. Hopefully this is all done before the session begins, which is why we recommend people to provide at least an hour before. I think that's the most actually you can have, so that students can get in there and attempt to process any problems that may arise. They may even contact you as the instructor before the session begins. However, once the session begins, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. So we provide a technical support phone number, which is available 24/7 for students to be able to call back, and they're very responsive. I've never really had to wait very long to have someone respond, whether it's the middle of the day or 10 o'clock at night. All right, so now I'm going to ask you, we're going to actually use that drop-down menu, the polling question. Have you ever used Blackboard Collaborate before? Okay, and so if you don't mind, Carolyn and Alicia. Okay. I see that Carolyn has a no. My gosh, you are such a brave soul. I really respect that. Okay. Oh, I see Alicia says no too. All right. All right. So Well, this is fine. We have an excellent Blackboard Collaborate session, an introduction how to use the session right here. But you're going to get a speeded up version of it. In fact, the two features we'll be talking about today are somewhat advanced features. However, I'm going to make it so that it's clear enough that you can understand, so that when you come back into Blackboard Collaborate, you'll be able to do it yourself. In fact, I'm going to give you both the opportunity to interact directly with this application share. You'll see how that happens in just a minute. Thank you so much. All right. So as we see right here, we have this ability to say yes or no, which actually both of you have figured out how to do. Since both of you said no, this next question is irrelevant. If yes, how many times? Okay, that's fine. We don't need to get into that. All right. I think I've already discussed this right here. If you have a question, just to click on this little icon, a little hand, and I will see that you're asking a question, and I'll be able to see what that question is and respond to it. All right. But what we want to focus in on is what the topic is for today's discussion, which is sharing your desktop. And in this first example right here, whereas before we've been by default using the whiteboard area, and that's what it is. Typically this whiteboard area is what is on by default, and it highlights this area right here. This is the whiteboard area. This whiteboard area is what your PowerPoint presentations where they will reside, and you'll be able to push them out to your students. However, what we want to do is now focus in this area right here, which is the application share. All right, application share meaning that you want to share something that's running on your computer. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what that might be. If I had a software program which was relatively new to the students and I wanted to show them how to do that, what I could do is open up that program on my desktop, on my computer. So it'd be open and available. Please note that you don't want to minimize it, okay, because if it minimizes, it disappears from the desktop. So you want to make sure that it's up and open and ready to go. All right, and then you want to, of course, click on the Blackboard Collaborate session, so that's what they're seeing. However, when you click on this area, this button right here, which is the application share, what's going to happen is, I just wanted to remind people it's important to open an application before starting an application share. They are going to see this open up right here. And this right here is a listing of all the things that are currently open in the instructor's desktop. So he's got, or in this case, right, it's me. I've got Blackboard, I've got Firefox open. I've got my GroupWise open. I've got an Adobe Acrobat document open. I've got, well, actually I don't have Power. This is just a screen capture. It also says that I've got Blackboard Collaborate. So I've got and then finally I've got a Microsoft Excel program. Now this is important. In fact, we'll use that as an example. But first what I want to do is I want to show you a screen capture. If I was to select this one right here, this is the Adobe Acrobat Reader. Okay. So if I select that and there is a submit or an OK button, what you should see opening up in your in that area in the application share is this program right here. Now what's nice about this particular program is it's a Adobe Acrobat document. However, what's important is that this particular document, even though it's a screen capture right here, is one of those documents that you can actually type into. So if you want to be able to show your students how to do something, you know, with active involvement, you can actually put up the document and type in their important information. Okay. I want to point this out too. When you as the instructor do this application share, what you're going to find is that there's going to be this yellow border. Okay, you can see it actually goes all the way around the document. I've only taken a specific portion of this document in my image capture here. But what you're going to see in one area, and it may be at the top or maybe at the bottom or on the side, you're going to see three buttons which appear. These are icons. This first button right here is simply saying that that you want to stop the application share. And actually this icon is representative of the convention. When we see this on a lot of different software programs that run audio or video, this is the button we see for stopping. Okay, I think there's another button for, it's an arrow going forward for play. There's also a pause, and so if you want to temporarily pause the application share for some other reason, you can do that. And finally, there's an icon here of what looks like a camera. And that camera is, in fact, an ability, if you click on that, it'll take a screen capture of whatever it is that's in the application share. And you may want to do that because, say you've actually added some content there that either you've added it or one of your students has added it. And you want to bring that in as an image. You can do that. And that's also a nice feature. Now, how do I share, how do I give the privilege of having a student actually participate in this application share with me so they can actually add or input content? Well, that's where you go back to the participant panel. In this particular case, I have a second, this person's name is Dan2, just to distinguish it from Dan, the moderator, so Dan2. And if I put my cursor over the Dan2 area, there's going to be a drop-down menu. Okay, in that drop-down menu, one of the options in that drop-down menu is give control of shared applications. And that give control of shared applications is going to give your student that you chose, note that this is just one student. I actually have only 2 people in this room, but if I had 100 people in this room, I wouldn't obviously give 100 people this ability. You can only really give it to one person at a time. So if I click on the one person right here, drop-down menu, and click on Give Control of Shared Application, now that student has the ability to participate as if they were me or as if they were at my own computer, which is really a cool feature. Okay, Carolyn, you've asked, when I share my desktop, can students see everything or only what I have open? I sometimes keep student work in files and I would not want to leave. That's absolutely right. This is why it's so important, and I'll go back to the previous slide here. This is why when you do the application share, you'd share one specific program at a time. Okay? So for instance, I have my GroupWise open. If I had an important email that was open that was very private, and I didn't want anyone to see it, I would not select that one. Okay, stay away from that. So if you have any files that have student information, you definitely don't want to open up that application. You just open up the application that you desire, okay, that you want to show. However, it's probably a good idea not to have that application when you're in your session anyway. All right? Good question. Okay, let me just advance here. Okay, so let's see, we talked about giving control of shared application. And you can also take away that same control. Yeah, you'd have to go back in and do this drop-down menu and you know, click here. And then when you do that, this thing will now be instead of grayed out, it'll be dark. It'll be dark and dark type. However, a shortcut to being able to take away the control, especially if a person is doing something you don't want them to do, is to click on the Control Space button, and then it will immediately take them off available. By the way, I wanted to show you this as well too, because I wasn't able to show it before. When you get in as the instructor, get into the course and into the session, you can have these icons here, and they're all X'd out, and by default, none of your students have permissions unless you set them when you set up the session. But you don't really want to give students all permissions to do everything because they can go crazy on them. So here you have an X over an icon that appears to be a microphone. So what you do is you click on this X. Obviously, it's a screen capture, so nothing will happen. But when you do this in the live course, when you click on it, that X will disappear, and that means your students will be able to use the microphone. This right here is representative of the webcam. If you click on that, that X will disappear. And this last one here that you're going to want to give them immediate privileges is looks like a chat, and that's exactly what it is. It's a chat. You click on that one, that X, and now students have the ability to do all 3 things, which is speak, to be seen, and to be able to use the text chat area. You always want to be able to do that because students won't be able to communicate with you. They'll be able to hear you, probably, but they won't be able to communicate. So make sure that you do that the very first thing that you do when you get into a session. All right, any questions? Okay. All right, I guess not. Let's go on to the next one. Now, one of the other really cool options that you can give students is the ability to share their desktop. So if they have something on their desktop that they want to be able to share, not just with you, but with the entire class, you can give them a desktop sharing application. And they can do the same thing that you did. So now they can select their application, which is open, and all of a sudden it's open for everyone else to see. Okay, so now at this point, I think I'm gonna click here on this application share so that we can share something with you. I want to mention something first before I do that, and that is when you share something on your desktop, an application, or whatever, it could actually be a browser that you've opened up. It is very important that you do not share full screen, because if you do, then what will happen is that it will obscure everything for you. I mean, you won't be able to see the audio-video panel or the participants panel because it'll fill the screen. So when you are preparing to set up an application, which you will do before you even get into the session, the Blackboard Collaborate session, you want to minimize so that it's a certain area. As you can see right here, that's about the width of the application share that I want to do. Certainly if you do that, you can scroll to the left or scroll up or down, but that's probably the best thing. And you want to make sure that wherever you put the application, and you can move it around, is going to be to the left of this area. This is the participant area. This is the audio-video panel area. So it's going to be in this area right here. It's the same area where you find the content in the whiteboard area. All right. So that's just something I want to point out. It's very important. Okay. So now I'm going to click on that button, Application Share. Wait a second now. Okay. Okay, so now I've got one thing that I want to open up here. It is, saying you're not seeing it right now, it's a Microsoft file, but it's a special file. It's a special file because it allows you to actually have input. So I'm going to click on the Share button, and now you should all see the thing that I'm sharing with you. Because I've created it so that it is not the full width, not full screen. As you can see right here, I'm actually moving my cursor around. It's not going to obscure my audio-video panel or my participants panel. I can still see. So if somebody asks a question, then I'll be able to see that. So it's very important that you not do that. So let's work with this particular application share program. This actually is loan amortization schedule. This is important for anyone who has a mortgage. So what this is actually, if you watch my cursor down here, this actually is the monthly payment that's based on a number of factors. It is the loan amount here, it's the annual interest rate here, and it's the term of the loan in years. In this case right here, we have a 15-year loan. So whatever I've done, whatever parameters I've set up on these two things will establish or determine the monthly payment down here. So if I click on the loan amount and I go from $100,000 to, let's double it, $200,000. I want you to see what happens with the monthly payment when I enter this. So by doubling the amount, we can see that now it's gone from $800 and some dollars to $1,797, almost $1,800 per month. Wow, that's kind of hard, right? So what if I want to change the interest rate, or what if I want to change the term of the loan? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give Alicia the ability to put in some different numbers, all right, to change that. So I'm going to go back, and just as I mentioned before, right by her name, I'm going to click that button, or you can't see that right here. I'm going to give control of shared applications to Alicia. And Alicia, you should now have the ability to move that cursor around, and I want you to change maybe the term of the loan from 15 to 30. Okay, so by changing it, by doubling the period of time, we've reduced the monthly payment, and that's what we would expect to have. Fantastic, Alicia. That's great. Any questions about that? Alright. As you can see, this is, my mouse was a little funky. Yes, I know. It takes a little time to get used to that. It all depends too also on the type of the technology that you're using. I actually had someone who was a couple of weeks ago who was using a Gateway laptop. It was 4 years old, and so she had a little challenge to do that, but that's fine. Don't let that worry about it. I still have some funky activity on mine as well, and I have a relatively modern computer, a new computer. All right, now I'm gonna take this control away from Alicia. Alicia, sorry. And now I'm gonna give it to Carolyn. Carolyn, are you ready to rumble? I'm gonna give control of shared application to you now. And now, Carolyn, I'd like you to change the interest rate from 7% to something lower, something reasonable. Okay? Just click on that. Yeah, I'm gonna. There you go. Okay, 5%. All right. And now just hit enter, and we see now that by reducing that interest rate from 7 to 5, it has gone down from $1,300 and some dollars to $1,073. So this is an example of how you might use a program that's on your computer that your students may not have access to, and definitely they wouldn't have access to the actual file unless you sent it to them. However, using it in this way allows the students to ask questions, to interact. If there's something which comes up as a result of something they did, they now have the ability to ask for clarification. All right. So I want you to think in terms of how you might use your this application share capability for something you have on your own in your own classes. So rather than just giving them a lecture, you actually might want to take a time out from the lecture and actually apply something that you have that's important for your particular course. All right. All right. Now, Carolyn said, I need to buy a new laptop since mine is over. Which brand works best with Blackboard? I can't make recommendations on that. I might get dinged or something like this. However, Windows-based computer is fine. We use HPs, and we don't have very many problems at all with them. I think it's more an issue of operating system. And you're using a Mac. Oh, well, I have a Mac too. Now, I'm a little leery of using Macs for this particular, for Blackboard Collaborate, because there's an issue with Java, and I know that there's a resolution to that too. And so you're a pretty gutsy person, I have to say, Carolyn, if you're able to get into this session using Mac, because it's a little challenging. Anyway, if you haven't updated your Mac in a while, you may not have updated the latest version of Java, which has created some issues. So if you have an older version of Java and you're working well, that's fantastic. But at some point, you're going to have to update that, or it may update it by itself, and you might have a challenge. And so in that case, you might want to call up Blackboard Collaborate and ask them. In that case. Okay, fine. I have a Mac that's 5 years old myself. It's an iMac. I love the iMac. It's got dual format. So I can use Windows sometimes, and sometimes I can use the Mac OS. Yeah, I'm a big Mac fan, but at work I use a Windows-based program. All right. So now I'm going to take control away from you, Carolyn. Okay, great. I'm going to stop the application share at this time. I'm going to click, if you recall, that one button that was a block. It actually says to stop application share. So, and then from here, I'm going to click on my whiteboard. So now we're back. We should all be seeing this application share slide. And the question is, how or when would I use application share, and what are some potential uses of application share? And I want you to not actually answer right now. I want you to think about it, because now we're going to go on to the second part of this sharing your screen, which is a web tour feature. And then we'll come back and we'll ask questions. I'll ask questions on how you might want to use either application share or web tour. Okay, so I want you to just think about it at this time, how you might want to use this feature to enhance your instruction. This next feature is the ability to, here we go, have a web tour. And a web tour simply is actually exactly what it says. It's to take your students on a little trip using a website. And it's important when doing this because if you just send them a link, they can look at the link and they go on their merry way, because most websites have a number of other hyperlinks on there and they can explore. And if that's what the rationale for the activity is, to have them explore a website, then you can just do that. You can just push it up. However, if you want to take control of where they go and what they see on a website, then you're going to want to use this particular feature. So you want to click on that button there. As an instructor, you would do that. And then there's going to be an open up blank area here, and that simply is where you would type in your URL, or if you've copied and pasted, you can copy a URL and then paste it into here. Okay. So what I've done is I've actually copied and pasted the URL to my alma mater, UCLA. Okay, and then if I click on it, it would pop up. Now you can only see a certain portion of the UCLA, and this is just a screen capture. So obviously it's a full screen that below. You'd be able to see that if I had the whole thing. However, because they have a number of links, as I mentioned before, students are free at this point to be able to go to any one of those links, and I've lost them. They're doing their own thing. However, if I want to point out this area right here, this Follow Me area. If I click on this particular area here, Follow Me, so now it's checked. Then now the students have to follow me. Everywhere that I go is where they go. Now they could click on a link and temporarily leave that site, but if I move to another space, they're gonna come back to where I am. And you can obviously ask the students to adhere to certain protocol. It says please follow me. Don't click on any other links. Alicia, you have a question. I've used Application Share to play a YouTube video because the links didn't work great from the PowerPoint slides. Seems to work okay. As a matter of fact, you have anticipated one of my activities, as a matter of fact, and it's a great way. In fact, this is one of these times where we're going to say, well, we prefer web tour to using something like Application Share, and I'll explain that in just a minute. Okay, so now I'm going to do that. I'm going to actually go to a website, okay, and I'm actually going to go to my UCLA one, the example, and I've got to follow me on. So if I click on that, we should now all see the website pop up. I see that if you're using a iPad, the web tour feature is not yet supported, unfortunately, and I didn't recognize that at the time. All right, so if I wanted to control where we go here, I can click on the Parents Weekend 3 days with your Bruin. Okay, and once it comes on, we should all see the 3 memorable days with your Bruin. It's a lovely picture. It's a lovely campus, but every campus is lovely. Okay, let's not get carried away with UCLA. All right, so this is one way of doing it where I can control where the students in your course are actually going. It's a good opportunity to explore outside of the lecture, and especially if you want to show them some specific thing. Now, what I'm going to do now is to go to a YouTube video site. Now, I should tell you, I'm going to do that. Oops, no, I don't want to. Let me go to where I have that saved. Now, since this is a YouTube video site, what happens when you go to a YouTube video, it automatically starts to play. All right, so you should know that and recognize it when you're doing something like this. So what's going to happen is it's going to start to play. I'm going to go to that site, and you can watch it at your leisure. You can pause it. It's maybe several minutes. We'll only watch about. Let's give ourselves maybe about 1 minute of watching it, and from there, then you can either hit the stop button, the pause button, or at that point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take us out of the web tour feature. All right, so here we go. Here it goes. It should be playing now for you. Let me know if it's not. Great, Alicia. Remember, we're going up to 1 minute. How you doing, Carolyn? Good, good, good. Okay. All right. We're all back. So in that way, you were able to see and hear the video. It's a good video, by the way. Okay. All right, Carolyn. So this is one way that I would prefer if you have a video that's on a place like YouTube to show. Now, if I was to take that same video and put it in an application share and open up that file, what would probably happen is that it has to go through the browser, now obviously the browser, but it also has to go through the additional layer of the application share. The result would be that application share would slow it down. It would run very, very slowly. It would load very slowly, and the students would not be able to hear the video. Absolutely, Alicia. Application share, web tours is the preferable one for showing videos, obviously the preferable one for doing web tours. You can also do a web tour in application share, but it really doesn't make sense to use that for that particular feature. You want to use it for activities that are really on your desktop, and even if that means a browser, because the browser really is on your desktop. But for certain things that are that run that would be prohibited by using this additional layer of the desktop, the application share, stick with the web tour. All right, for doing that. All right, any questions? All right, so now I'm going to ask you folks, what are some ideas for using Web Collaborate Application Share or Web Tour? Now, these are two different activities, two different features, and so they probably would be used for different activities. So what would you like to use it for? And either Alicia or Carolyn can type if you have some ideas about that. Okay, Lisa says that she likes the web tour feature better than application share. I guess for viewing YouTube videos, and she said I could see using the application share for a stats program using Excel, and that's an excellent opportunity for doing that. Now you have to be careful because students have access to that file like this, and so you don't want them saving a file that's been changed. But it's a good opportunity for students, and it's like having them in class where if you ask them to come to the board and answer something on the chalkboard, all right? But in this particular case, it's even better because you're recording it. You would be recording this right here, and students could be able to view that as well. Let's see. You love the web tour for videos. You love it. Let's see. And like that they can control the video as well. Absolutely, and this is important that faculty should recognize that the students really are kind of sort of on their own when it comes to viewing that. You don't have control of stopping the video or pausing the video. All right, and as long as you know that, then it's a great opportunity to be able to work with that. Let's see. Carolyn says I could see using it in Word so that they can brainstorm, but then my other files would be in view, right? Only the file that you have open, only the application and the file for that application that you have open is available. They would not be able to, or should not be able to see that. Maybe I should use the application share on the whiteboard. You know what, I'm not really sure what you mean by that. Maybe I should use the application on the whiteboard because the whiteboard simply is that area where you push your content. All right. Oh, instead of the white, yes, yeah, absolutely. That would be one great feature. So that type of activity would be an active learning activity. It would be one that you engage your students with, one in which they have to interact with. And of course, that is the preferred method of instruction, active learning. Active learning means an engaged learner, as opposed to a passive learner, which might be the case when you're just providing them with content. You're not asking them questions. You're not providing them with activities that would have them actually apply what they're learning. Okay, great, great. Now, there was something I wanted to say about the application. Oh, yes. Now, this is one thing that I found to be the case, that when you do a web tour, that is not likely to be in the recorded, the archive, which is a little surprising to me. What gets recorded is application share and what's in the whiteboard, but not what is in the web tour. All right, just so that you guys are aware of that. Okay. Any other ideas how you might want to use either web tour or application share? And I don't mean to put you on the spot. Okay. Alicia says, but then you could embed the links in your PowerPoint, right, so that they could visit it later. Now, this is what I found to be the case, is that you could actually, when you embed a link in PowerPoint and then you upload it to the Blackboard Collaborate session, you're uploading what essentially converts the PowerPoint slide into an image, which means the links no longer are available. However, let me see if I can do this here. You can actually push out links so that the students can view them themselves. Let me see if I can do that right now. Let's see. Show. Let's see, file for transport. You know, I'm blocking right now on how that's happening right here. So, yes, if you do that, so I'm going to put a link right now in the chat area, and that's one way of doing that. There's another way of doing it too. I had forgotten about that. So if I put the links in the chat area so they can view these as later as part of the archive, they should be able to do that, because when you view the archive as the archive, the whole interface is available. However, if you view this as an MP4, which is the video file, you only see what's in the whiteboard area and not the other parts of the interface. All right. So as you see right here, I've just added the link in the chat area. As I said, there's another way of doing it, and in fact, well, it's essentially the same thing. So I guess you just want to do that. Just put it in the chat area and then hit enter, and it'll be available to them. All right. Let me see if I have any more slides to go here. There is one more. What I'm going to do is I'm going to follow up today's session with a link to our resource area for all questions related to Blackboard. It's going to look a little bit different than this. This is probably a screen capture from about a year ago. So it's going to be looking a little different, but it will have much of the same things. It will have a 7-minute orientation. There is also an orientation for moderators, for instructors, an introduction to the whiteboard. All these are very, very important. There is even an introduction to application share, which is what we talked about today, and a web tour. However, there's going to be another link which is very important, and which is one which I sent out to you, which is simply the link to check the system of the students. So whatever computer system the students will be using, it's an opportunity for them, if you're setting up a session, for them to test it out in advance so that they don't have a problem with Java, a version of Java, or there's something wrong with the version of the browser that they're using. So you'll have this particular link, and it's important for getting students up and ready for using this. All right. Any other questions? Okay. Okay. No. Okay. Great. What I'm going to do is I'll be sending out that email, and I'll also with a link for an evaluation. I really always appreciate your evaluation feedback from the workshops that we offer, and of course they're entirely anonymous. All right. So anyway, if there are no more questions, then I will stop the recording. I will send you a link to where that recording can be found, so you guys can have access to it sometime, maybe tomorrow or the day after. All right. Oh, one more thing too. Whenever you're recording, you always want to make sure that everyone has left the room. So the last thing that I do is I will make sure that everyone has left the room. You can manually kick people out. It's it sounds kind of cruel, but sometimes students will leave their computer unattended and they'll forget about it, and they'll still be in the session. All right. Great. You're welcome, Alicia and Carolyn. Happy to make these workshops available. If you have any questions, how can you tell me how to activate my mic again? Oh, okay, great, sure. Let me just go back to an earlier slide. Okay, so what you want to do, Carolyn, is that you want to plug in your, hopefully it's a USB headset. We prefer USB, I should say, headsets in there before you even get into the session. And your computer should recognize it. Then I want to take you back here to this slide right here that has the interface. This is for the participant interface. Actually, it pretty much is the same thing for the moderator interface. And so you click on this button right here, and I don't have a drop down, but it's going to take you through a step-by-step procedure to make sure that you can hear, first of all, and then there's one, for speaker, and actually if you have a headset mic, it'll be coming out through your headset. But if you have a microphone that's attached to that, there's going to be an opportunity for you to practice recording. All right. And you click on the record button and you say a few words, and then you stop the recording and you play back the recording. All right. And if you can hear that, then it's going to ask you if it did a good job. Then you just say yes, okay, it's fine, and you'll be able to work with that. All right. Now, in order for you to be able to talk, you're going to want to click on this button right here. This is the talk button. And when you click on this talk button, it's going to have an icon of a microphone that appears on that talk button, and you're going to be able to see a microphone right beside your name. Obviously, this is not you, but this is, so this person clicks, Amanda Reed clicks on this talk button. She's now going to see a microphone there. All right. So if you have a microphone and you've done the setup, you should be able to now communicate. So you have to click on that. Oh, I see that you've clicked on that button.
Hello, can you hear me?
Can you say a few words? Hey, okay. I can hear you. This is great.
Okay.
That's
so
how you do
I
that,
need
Carolyn.
to know that so that I can
yes.
tell the students.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Good.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Now, once again, if you're having any trouble on an actual session, then you want to be able to go to that Blackboard Collaborate phone number that I gave, and what I always recommend is that people practice. So you create practice sessions before you actually get into your real session. And so by the time you do it, you're comfortable with it. Now, even though I've worked with Blackboard Collaborate and I teach workshops on Blackboard Collaborate, I always practice before I have a Blackboard Collaborate session because sometimes things may be a little fuzzy. All right?
No, I know I have to. That's why I haven't really started it because I just don't feel confident yet. But
sure.
next spring of 2014.
Mm-hmm.
They want me to create a class that's 100% online.
Okay.
And the department has been using so another program, not Collaborate. It's the one where you can
Adobe Connect?
Yes, Adobe Connect. But
mm-hmm.
my problem is that Adobe Connect, well, first of all, I don't have a NIU computer. Second of all, Adobe Connect doesn't work on the Mac. And so what I'm going to have to do is either get a new laptop and see if they'll get me Adobe Connect, or just go to the university and use their laptop to record my PowerPoints on mm-hmm. that. But my question is, could I combine Adobe Connect with the PowerPoint thing that they want with maybe some sessions on Blackboard, even though it's supposed to be 100% online? What I was thinking was maybe activate the Blackboard for sessions, informal sessions where students would want to talk through issues that they might be having, ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
That would be unstructured. Or I could, they have to do a book club. I could set up sessions where they could talk to each other about the book club, because it's not mm-hmm. the same when you text each other about the book you're reading. It just isn't.
Carolyn, I have a recommendation. I have for my own courses, I have an office hours, virtual office hours every Wednesday evening, and students can come in and ask questions. Some of them have mics and some of them don't. but it's an opportunity for people to share. It's a space for them. Obviously, if it's online, people are not meeting in a physical location. So what you can do is create these separate sessions for students who can have access to them, and they have a microphone. They can talk with each other. And in fact, if they have a laptop that has a built-in webcam, those usually also have built-in microphones. They can actually just use that to communicate. The quality of the sound is not as good as if you have a headset mic, but I don't want to really reduce that, to eliminate that chance by saying it has to be USB. But they're relatively inexpensive, and as the instructor, my recommendation for you is to procure one so that you can. It's something you're going to be using often, especially if you're recording. If you're going to be recording lectures, you're going to want to have a USB microphone.
You want the USB microphone?
Yes, that's
what I have right now.
Excellent. You know what? You sound pretty good. I mean, it's a good quality sound. So you should, if you hold on for just a minute, I'm going to stop the recording.
All right.